So, hello everyone. In this session, we will talk about data visualization dashboards for large Drupal websites. I am George Kaffezas. I'm a web developer at Point Blank. We're an award-winning design and development studio. We're building Drupal since 2008. Today's goal is to see together the process of this custom module development. Some keywords, as you can see: batch API, cache API, database, form API, group, Highcharts. One note: this presentation and the work in this presentation is the result of team effort. So, the contents of today's session. We begin with what client requested from us. Then we will proceed with how we planned the whole development process. Then on to the implementation phase, where we will go a bit deeper and see the modular architecture, the database and the queries that we used, the layouts and the charts, and finally how we used cache and batch to solve some problems that arose. And this is a sneak peek of the final result of the dashboard module. Now, regarding our clients, both our clients had a Drupal 10 website. The first one had around 2,000 users with 25 groups. The second one had a Drupal 10 website 10 times bigger with around 20,000 users and 240 groups. Both wanted to have an overview of their platforms, how many users logged in, registered, what content was generated, and so on. But also, they wanted to provide the group administrators with in-group statistics respective to the general ones. So, as the first step, we always search for existing contrib modules in order to see if they fit our case. Even if we don't find one, usually we find some inspiration and guidance as to how we can develop ours. In our case, this module was yet another statistics module, which served as a good start to how it was organized and how the logic between the queries and so on was developed. And we also used in the beginning the exams for developers, which always serves as a good start for using the well-documented Drupal APIs examples in order to see how we can build upon them. After we had done our research and some mock-ups, some outlines, and so on, we proceeded with the development and we adjusted them accordingly. I would like to mention that we had low AI assistance due to the limited availability back then, but also due to the confidentiality of both projects. Regarding the implementation, we'll begin with the modular architecture. The logic was to include almost everything as much as we could in the custom module. The only exception was the views configuration files because it was easier and more maintainable further in the development to have them in the config.sync folder. We also followed a component-driven approach, both because we were working with the Europa component library, I will talk about it later, and because it helped us organize the respective functionalities better. So, a quick overview. This is the folder structure of our custom module, and we will take a closer look in the SRC folder, beginning with the access folder, where we specified the roles and the respective access that they had across the dashboards. Then we have some constants where we set variables that were used across the module to have consistency and better control over it. Then we had the controller folder where we followed an approach of one controller per dashboard page. So, for example, we have a home page for the dashboards. That was the main dashboard page for our module. Then we have an individual group dashboard, which was, as the name says, for each group. We also had the members dashboard controller and so on. Then on to the Drush folder, where we had some custom Drush commands to help us with the statistics and the caches. We'll have a look in next. Then we used Form API, which honestly was this one file, but it was required for a specific group page that we wanted to have more dynamic content and more advanced filtering options. So that's why we used Form. Then a couple of hooks to help us with the deployment and the update of the statistics and the menu links. The plugin folder included several things here and there that helped us enhance the whole functionality and use some other functions from other modules like flagging and tagging. And finally, the services folder where most of our functionalities lie. And here we had the functions and queries grouped per content, per group, per members, and then we had some more specific files that helped us rendering actually the components in the front end, and also some functions that helped us with data retrieval, transformation, encoding, and so on. And finally, some files like routing, deploy, install, some usual, some not that usual, but they completed the module's functionality. So in terms of the database, we had to have a custom data table in order to save the statistics, both the past ones and the present. It is a quite simple, actually, table with 5 columns with an ID, a dashboard type, statistic, the count, the specific one, and then the cumulative one, and the date that it was taken. But regarding the queries, we had to do several digging here and there in other tables of the database, like the node field data, the users field data. And we also took a look in the contrib modules to see how they implemented their queries. And we came to the conclusion that for our case, dynamic queries were the way to go, since they are fast, efficient, and flexible. One thing to notice about dynamic queries is that you have to take care of the access control yourself when you're using them, but we mostly didn't do that in the queries themselves because we had a more controlled way, a more centralized way in the access folder via the access roles. An example of such query, you can see that we take data from profile, users field data, profile, location address, and so on. We do some counts, we do some grouping, some ordering, and then we return an array to afterwards process and display the charts. This one returns members grouped by country. So regarding the charts, as I mentioned before, both websites used the ECL, Europa Component Library. So we followed their utilities, and we wrote what custom what custom component was required, but in compatible way. Regarding the charts, we used the width chart that is displayed, that is provided by the web tools, which is actually a Highcharts library with the table sorter jQuery for some custom table sorting here and there. More on the Europa Components library. You can learn more and listen more on Friday, where we have a specific presentation how to use and utilize all their functionality by other 2 members of our team. So let's take an example. This is a controller for the dashboard homepage. As you can see, we have some helper functions to get the data, and then a component function to display it in the front. We'll have a closer look at them. We take the title, we take the URL, then we pass those data to the card component function, which then we pass to the twig template of that card, and then to the homepage twig template, and the final result is something like this. A more complex, more complex example, the organization's dashboard, where we will have a look at these functions and a chart, column chart. We had made our query to get the members with the groups with the most members, but that query had to pass through transformation in order to align with the Highcharts variables, and then we had to encode those data in order to be able to use them in the respective component function, and then in the twig template, which looks like this. It's a JSON in JSON format, Highcharts, and the final result is in the bottom right. So, as I mentioned before, both websites were pretty large with a huge number of pages, users, content in general. So we unavoidably had to take care of the caches and configure them in order to avoid big loading times and unnecessary calculations. Moreover, the clients wanted to be able to update the dashboard data without having to clear all the caches for obvious reasons. So we offered them that functionality too. We did that by specifying a specific cache manager in the services for the cache invalidation. Then in the control of the homepage, we called that service to invalidate all caches. And an example of how the caches worked in the controller of a page, in particular in the organization's page. In the beginning, we check if we have anything in the caches regarding that page. If we don't, we proceed with making all the calculations and then saving them to the cache. But there were still two problems. The first one was that both websites were online when we were developing our module, so we needed to do some cumulative calculations for the past statistics. Moreover, both had thousands, if not more, of entities, so that we had to count on development, so that should be handled as well. And the solution came from the batch API provided by Drupal and the hook deploy by Drush. Hook deploy is a hook that is executed after all configuration is imported successfully to our website, so we were sure that everything that we had shipped was there, and then we proceeded with a batch API to do the calculations in a more grouped and organized way in batches of, in this case, 50 items. And the helper function looked something like this. Several calculations and queries to the database. The two functions that were most important, the one was the insert or update, which updated or inserted the respective data in our table, and then there was the calculation of the past statistics for each specific type that we had. So, in conclusion, both dashboards were successfully deployed, and the clients were able and are still able to view the statistics up to this day successfully. And Drupal proved once again invaluable, since the tools that it offers, the modularity and the structure, allows to navigate through complex systems and projects like them with precision and success. Any questions? Okay. Thank you very much for your attention, and thanks for the conference, for the opportunity to present my first ever session.